Welcome to the Silicon Slopes Breakfast. Today we're joined by the TaxBit team and one of the investors of TaxBit. I will let everyone introduce themselves from left to right.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Woodward. I'm a tax attorney at TaxBit. So one of the co-founders, focus on all the nitty-gritty tax issues. I was a early adopter of Bitcoin cryptocurrency. Started out working with large clients on some of these issues and ultimately realized that there was a need to automate the tax complexities at scale. And that's what led to TaxBit.
My name's Austin Woodward. Yes, we're brothers. He's smarter, I'm better looking. We're excited to be here today. So I'm a CPA, I'm the CEO, and one of the co-founders as well. So I started my career at Qualtrics. I'm excited to tell about that story as this amazing Silicon Slope company as well, and then ultimately led to TaxBit and automating all things cryptocurrency tax and accounting in order for this amazing asset class to continue to thrive and exist.
I'm Michelle O'Connor. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at TaxBit. I've been in the crypto space since 2014 and excited to be here.
And I'm Diogo Bija with Album, one of the first backers of TaxBit.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. All right, so let's start with the founding story of TaxBit. Where did the idea come from? How did you guys get to this point?
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier, I was at Qualtrics and just really immersed in the whole world of finance and accounting. And on all my spare time, just being kind of a CPA and a finance nerd, I was investigating emerging fintech technologies. And I came across cryptocurrency in early 2017, and Justin was earlier than me, and he was always, texting me, Austin, you need to check out cryptocurrency. And so in all my spare minutes after work, I would research this asset class. And it was fascinating. It wasn't Bitcoin as an investment vehicle per se. It was the underlying tech behind Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and cryptocurrency in general that I just saw a lot of disruptive use cases. Eliminating the middleman on transaction fees, instantaneous cross-border payments, tokenizing real assets such as real estate, making that accessible to everyday people, protecting against inflation in impoverished countries. And so all of those use cases, Justin and I would get on the phones at night and be like, oh, wow, like this is going to exist. This is going to be enormous. But as we dug in deeper, we realized cryptocurrency is a horrible name. It's not currency, but it's rather property. And that's not in the eyes of just the IRS, but about 90% of the world's countries. And what that means is the movement of cryptocurrency from point A to point B, unlike traditional fiat currency, it creates a taxable event and an accounting challenge. And everything has to be automated as cryptocurrency moves across the ecosystem. And so that's where it all began. Clearly I had, the smartest brother right here that was already working on these projects. I'll let him get into that. But we were collaborating, in every spare moment that we had as to how we can automate the challenges behind that asset class.
Yeah, I think we saw firsthand some early use problems. One of the first cases I was working on was with the general counsel of a Fortune 500 company back in 2014, saying we want to accept cryptocurrency in exchange for goods and services on our platform. We want to be able to sell, services for Bitcoin, and we dove into the regulations, got caught up on, privacy and security, and ultimately tax was the hurdle. These are capital assets, and these enterprises are accepting this in mass. How do you account for these assets? And it nearly derailed the project at the time because there wasn't a good way to automate, these complexities, which ultimately led us to TaxBit to, solve these at scale.
You want us to keep going here of where it led to next? So that was the whole idea generation. But the fun part was, okay, now that we have the idea, how do we go and build a team? And of course, what a better way to do it than start in a basement, right? It's the Utah way. It's where I came from, Qualtrics way. It was just an awesome story. And so fortunately for us, our father volunteered his basement to us. And its fate has it, it wasn't just 4 people working out of there day and night. It was 4 people living there, so literally sleeping, and my mom was cooking meals for us throughout the day. It was the classic kind of college dorm room story where we were just breathing, sleeping, and thinking TaxBit all around the clock. That led us, that didn't last too long. That was like 6 months, I think, of our story. And we're like, okay, it's time to get serious, that we have something here, we have a product, it's starting to pick up steam. Let's go and talk to, some of the best investors in Utah. And that's what led us to Diogo and Album.
Gotcha. So Diogo wanders down to the basement. Question for you is, what did you see in the founding team, the product, and the market that enticed you and your team?
As an immigrant to this country, I love the kind of founding story of the country and the founding father story of the country. And Thomas Jefferson has a quote which is very applicable, but nothing is sure but death and taxes. And as an early adopter or whatever of crypto, I was in the Mt. Gox fiasco since 2011. Thank goodness I didn't have any money there. Didn't have any money put there. But it was pretty clear that nothing was sure in crypto, but that some people would get taxed, especially with the large gains and eventually losses that people were having. People would want a way to claim those losses against their gains, and people would want, or the IRS would want to get, their share of the in tax returns, right, for the taxation of the gains that were being made. And so when we met, it was in the middle of the crypto winter, if you will, and it was interesting because a lot of people wrote crypto off during that period. It was the period when most financial institutions were basically declaring Bitcoin dead, and that was an interesting case, because at the time we were really heavily focused on claiming losses. Claim your loss against your other gains, against your ordinary income, and that quickly led to building a platform and a scalable solution to what now TaxBit can do, which has transformed from that small vision of claiming losses to a full solution, full automated solution of tax accounting, tax and accounting for crypto assets.
Yeah, the automation's the key there, because it sounds like a nightmare to do taxes.
It's a nightmare, yeah. I mean, we're attorneys and CPAs and tried to do this manually ourselves and realized we just spent weeks in a spreadsheet with macros and pivot tables and references all to and fro. And yeah, this had to be a problem that software automates.
I think ultimately realized you shouldn't have to be a tax attorney to figure out how to trade cryptocurrency. People are doing it, people are trading, and it's got to be just a seamless solution that, you're trading, you're getting the tax forms that you need, and you don't need to be an expert, because we handle those the complexities behind the taxation and accounting.
And there's probably a lot of people happy that this product came when it did, right?
Yes, believe it or not, I think taxes are associated with bad, at times, but as Diogo said, most of our users it's not just the compliance side of things. We bring a lot of value beyond compliance. How do we help people use cryptocurrency in a tax optimized way? How do we generate losses where available? How do we provide them with a whole suite of wealth management tools where they can know, hey, I should use this in this situation, use this in this situation. So just the tax compliance side of things was just the foot in the door and the start, and we're really excited about the whole experience that we provide to make crypto more accessible to everyone.
So before y'all came up with the idea and the product and got it working, if you had Bitcoin or anything crypto before, did you pay taxes? Not
many people did. There wasn't software to go and automate this, and so there was what's called a big tax gap. A tax gap's defined as those that knowingly transact an asset that they owe taxes on, and those that actually voluntarily file. And I think a lot of that stemmed from not bad intentions. Some, obviously, cryptocurrency is a little bit synonymous with anonymous, private, but those days are gone as this asset's evolved. But a lot of people, it was more just the heartache and pain of actually knowing how to do it. And Michelle's an example of that here today. It's a great story that I'd love for Michelle to share.
Yeah, when did you join the circus?
So I actually got started in crypto in 2015 when I joined BitReserve, which is now Uphold, and was new to this space and navigating this world while I was building their community and marketing, and held so many assets across Uphold and all these other platforms and their competitors, and was just testing, buying, selling, doing all of this because I was marketing it, and then got the surprise of tax legislation passing and had thousands upon thousands of transactions that, as a public figure, I thought, well, if anyone's going to get a knock on the door, it might be me as one of the first, and had just met Austin and Justin and said, oh, great, I met the team from TaxBit. They can simplify this for me, because I had contacted my CPA. He laughed at me and said no, and sent it back. And that's how we evolved there. And from there on, now I'm here. So it's really been a wonderful few years.
It's a full circle story. Our first ever user to now she leads marketing for TaxBit. So really cool.
That is great. And so marketing for a company like this, it's not like, a tractor, right? There's more that goes into it. What are you finding that what works, what doesn't in this industry?
Sure. So I'm non-traditional in the way that I approach marketing from start, and my importance is authenticity and transparency, and you're only as good as your community, and your community being your customers, your partners, and that's really where I have built throughout the years a personal reputation of being transparent and really making sure that our customers are getting the best experience possible. And TaxBit as well has been customer obsessed. So it's first and foremost building a community, because I can say anything until I'm blue in the face. I work for the company. If I have 5 customers, 50 customers, 500 who are happy, their power of voice is far more than anything we can do. So it's building that education around that to really make sure that what we're providing is what they need, and we're helping people understand that.
Yeah, that makes sense. You guys raised a little bit of pocket money recently. 100 million is the number, right? Biggest Series A in Utah history. You called me that night. And what are you going to do with all that money? What are the plans here?
It's a great question. It's obviously a lot of money, but people always ask, why so much? And what we created over the last few years during a bear market is really special. It's a category-defining company, and that cryptocurrency can't exist without an ecosystem of tax and accounting products to automate all of the hurdles. And so when you think about creating an entire movement of fintech, and one of the greatest disruptions, I'm bullish, that we're going to see since the replacement of the gold standard with fiat currency, there's a lot to do. There's not a shortage of innovation on both the software development front, but also go-to-market, marketing and community, international expansion, working with regulators, which is a key focal point of ours, not just here in the US, but across borders. So all of those things, when they come together, it requires building a world-class team. Software is just a function of people, and world-class people that we are trying to recruit and attract globally in order to enable an entire asset class, an entire financial disruption to our economy.
And that takes obviously a lot of money and time, and kind of dovetails into this question. So, start in the basement, growing and hiring key people. How have you guys decided as an executive team on the roles? Who's going to handle, if you don't have an HR person, when you're wearing a lot of hats, how did you guys kind of figure out who wears the hats initially?
It's a good question. I'll start, and then Justin can piggyback here. So it's a common question when you found a startup, like how do you disseminate and segregate duties? For us, it was pretty natural in that my passion is interacting with people. It's on the sales front. And so most of my time is sales, and sales not just with enterprise customers, but also on the recruiting. I love to spend time on people. Justin, you can go into your passions.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about the operations side and working with regulators and working with clients on ultimately, making sure they're taken care of and their needs are met. And so I think really building the teams on the operations side is critical. We work with large clients, large institutions, so there's obvious needs that arise through departments. You got to have the best security leaders that there are out there. We're handling a lot of data. You need the best marketing departments. You need customer success to work with these large deals that we're closing and servicing. You need large support teams. We have one of the largest in the industry of just constantly a place that any of our users can go interact with, and no one's left in the dark. We're there building those communities and really in the forefront.
Yeah, so it just kind of happened naturally for us, and then quickly, Justin and I aren't dumb. We know that we don't know a lot, and so how can we go hire some of the best leaders that can, make up for our shortfalls? And we've done that with Michelle on the marketing front, Scott Leonard, world-class dev, Seth Wilkes on our subject matter expert team, David Tuttle leads our customer support team, a rock star. Brian Mezzi just recently joined as our director of security. We have an amazing leadership team from top to bottom, and that's just getting started.
Yeah, so along that front, you guys are fairly young team, and you're going to hire folks that have gone up and down the elevator quite a bit more than you, and that could be prickly from time to time, right? How have you guys kind of managed that as you hire more senior people, both in career and age?
We love it. It's a challenge, but not even one that we fear. It's an opportunity. We love to work with the best and the brightest. It helps us elevate our game. TaxBit is not a top-down dictatorship. It is more of a flat, autonomous, put together all the best brains in the world. Let's come together and collectively get to the right answer. It's not about my answer or Justin's answer. It's about the team's answer. And so it's a challenge that we've embraced. We have an amazing culture of diversity from an age spectrum, from people. I don't think we've quite employed anyone quite in their 19s yet, but definitely early 20s all the way up to late 50s. And so it's just all about fostering an environment where that can flourish and embracing that.
That's great. All right, so Diogo, question for you. At this point in the company's evolvement, what is your role as an early investor? How do you interact with the team?
That's a great question. So last Friday, I was in their office, and maybe this goes to comment what Austin just mentioned, having an extremely diverse team, and I don't know, really inclusive, and just the energy in the place is incredible. So I was there for their kind of all-hands meeting that they do every Friday, joined with lunch. Shout out to J-Dogs. We had some delicious J-Dogs for that. Yeah. And that's the role of a seed stage investor evolves over time. So when we first invested, we would talk probably every week, and it was very much about what are we doing? Who are we? Who can we close as customers? And that first customer came, and the second customer came, and then it became a conversation about strategy. Where are we going? Who are we becoming, and who do we want to become? And then it evolves to be a conversation around talent. So I'd say that most of my time with TaxBit now is actually spent in helping and assisting Austin recruiting the best and brightest of the industry and here locally. So a lot of the time is spent on bringing in the people that will make this happen. And look, we are recruiting a lot. I mean, immediately before this meeting, you were in an interview, with a candidate. So it doesn't stop, right? Because the amplitude of the problem we're solving is huge. So it's evolved from being kind of a little bit of a sounding board to, no, let's actively help in recruiting. When we put the big round together, that was part of it, strategizing on who do we talk to, who do we want to have at the table. And it was a very obvious decision once we got towards the end. We had lots of interested parties, but the kind of the final meeting, if you will, happened in our office at 9 at night, eating some sushi with these two, and selecting who is going to participate and to what extent. And those are difficult things to do on your own. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of how it has evolved.
Yeah. So there's a long list of pretty cool funds and investors that came in on this round. I guess that's where you ultimately decided 9 p.m. over sushi. But how did that process go for you two as far as deciding who to partner up with?
We're, first of all, just super fortunate. In the last 6 months, cryptocurrency as an asset class has just taken off. And that's not from the price of Bitcoin. I think that's the first indicator that most people look to. But for us, as a business, it's actually institutional adoption, and that's the indicator we look at. So you had PayPal rolling this out to all of their users and to 39 million merchants you can go spend crypto with. You've got Coinbase on the forefront of one of the largest tech IPOs in history. They're going to be one of the biggest companies in the world. You have BlackRock, institutional adoption. You've got Visa, MasterCard. You got Elon Musk and Tesla putting it on their balance sheet. All of this happened within a matter of months. And so the common theme here is all of these institutions embrace crypto. People in the background were saying, whoa, if this is going to exist, who are the picks and shovel companies that are going to enable this? Because right now it's kind of a little bit the wild, wild west. How are they actually going to handle the back office? And so tax and accounting was at the forefront of that. And I say privacy and security was another appendage. And so for us, fundraising, it wasn't something that we were actively out and doing. We were building just heads down. It was tax season. We're trying to focus on building a world-class, get through business and get through tax season. But as fate has it, some of the best investors in the world were actively reaching out to us, lots of them, and we were fortunate to kind of have our pick of some of the best there are. And so really fortunate to choose who we did, and we went with the leads. We had a long list here, but who led was Paradigm, who was co-founded by Fred Ursum, one of the founders of Coinbase, and then Matt Huang, who was a partner at Sequoia, so great pedigree there of founders. Very, very integrated into the cryptocurrency ecosystem, so they just made natural sense. And then Tiger Global, and who doesn't know Tiger Global? One of the best performing VCs and hedge funds in the world. And so just a lot of capital, a lot of world of opportunity there. But apart from the leads, how can we go, and one of the things that Justin and I spent a lot of time on with Diogo, is how can we go build a world-class syndicate? And that syndicate, some of that was announced in the press. It was 20 to 30 world-class investors, all who can move the needle in different ways. And so that was a strategic process that we just...
And it was hard.
Oh, it was
very hard.
It was difficult.
Because you always have people wanting more allocation, right? When you have a company that's keep going on.
Yeah, and so to us, we brought in world-class people, the Winklevoss twins, founders of Gemini, Winklevoss Capital, Anthony Pompliano. People ask all the time, where can I go get crypto knowledge? Follow Anthony Pompliano on Twitter. He's brilliant. We got Galaxy Digital. We got Coinbase Ventures, PayPal Ventures. I'm missing 20 to 30. But really just great people that can help us solve this problem, to bring crypto to the mainstream.
Yeah, that's pretty wild because most people will never know what it's like to be the belle of the ball or the cool kid, but you guys had a unique problem in that you had to decide who's in or out.
Yeah, I think from an outsider perspective, you see, the bells and whistles. There was a lot of years of building during a bear market and the grind of staying focused, and there's so many things we could have built, but we were very focused on our mission and deliberate about what we're doing. And so it just happened, and it all culminated at the perfect time.
Yeah. All right, let's start with Michelle with this question. Previous work experience, previous experiences in your career, what have you learned in those, and what are you applying now with this role? And we'll come back towards me with that one.
Sure. So I started my career working actually in Europe in marketing and public relations. I was in luxury fashion in the early 2000s and evolved from there, quickly realizing we got to 06, 07, 08, and I was in New York, and the market was changing. The ability to spend at scale for agencies was no longer applicable, and I had been in agencies or in-house at companies watching the need for grit and tenacity and to not look at the traditional. So the idea of a general marketer didn't really exist at that time, where it was someone who could take and grow at scale and not just follow one specific path. Social media was also emerging at that time. So I took a step back as the economy kind of really slowed down. And I said, okay, I'm going to create an agency that can service these companies in ways that they're not thinking or realize they need. So early adopting in a space that had a lot of discomfort and educational requirements, and worked with some larger companies, but then found my passion with small businesses. They were the ones who really, when the economy was slowed down, they needed the ability to engage with Yelp, have PR, and how do they do that without spending all of their bottom line that they couldn't. So I built out an agency doing that. And then at some point, I said, okay, this is great. Working for yourself is wonderful. But I needed new challenges and was kind of getting a little bit stagnant, and met the founder of Bit Reserve, that was Halsey Minor, who's a visionary in this space, has started an incredible company. It's Salesforce, CNET, et cetera. And when I met him, I had no idea what Bitcoin was other than, Googling ahead of the conversation. And he had that visionary capacity where I left the meeting and went and sat. I remember I was in San Francisco at Fort Mason, and I looked out the water, and it was that moment of, if I don't jump now, I will regret this. So it was really just throughout a career taking uncomfortable leaps where it might have been a total fail, and there have been failures, but with every failure you learn. And I think those who are afraid to leap and test will always stay. And some people are happy that way. I always like living in a little bit of discomfort.
Yeah, it's a good lesson. Austin?
Justin, let's go with you first.
Yeah, I think, can you repeat the question one more time?
Previous career, previous experiences that you learned that you're now applying.
Yeah, so I mean, my background is in law, and so my previous experience, actually, some of the first clients I ever worked with, large Fortune 500 clients, the issues they came forward were cryptocurrency issues and tax issues, which I was fortunate. Being young in my career, I became an expert in this area. There weren't experts. There weren't experts at the big law firms, at the other areas. It was us that was diving into these issues, and so I think that was fortunate. I think just being able to, that early exposure of, oh my gosh, these are major problems here that I can't bill hours to solve. It takes, scalable software to ultimately, surpass these barriers. So I think it's just fortunate having the early exposure and recognizing a need, and then taking that leap, deciding, you know what, I could take a traditional route and jump to, the major big law firms and go that route. But ultimately, that wasn't exciting. That was kind of, the backup plan. And the exciting thing was, building the problem that I actually saw general counsels and legal departments struggle with, which was cryptocurrency tax and accounting.
You should have heard that phone call when I said, hey, Justin, you want to go live in a basement, take no salary, and turn down all these big, flashy law firm jobs? That was a fun call.
Yeah.
So glad he did.
Free dinner, though.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm a byproduct of Silicon Slopes, Utah, homegrown rock star company, and that's Qualtrics. I was fortunate to, coming out of BYU's accounting program, not follow the pack. And there's nothing wrong with following the pack, but at the time, I was one of the first finance and accounting members at Qualtrics. I was an early employee there, and it was viewed as a risk at that time, especially from mentors of mine and others who are saying, you have a clear career path here in traditional accounting firms. And so everything that I've learned has come from Qualtrics. I studied that company meticulously. I watched every single move, and it was just incredible what we achieved there. And so really looking forward to just taking those learnings and replicating what we can at TaxBit in our own way.
Yeah. All right, so there's certain brothers that when they fight, it's like closed fists. Others don't fight at all. Some just push. We won't talk about that because I'm sure one of you is tougher than the other. But what are the upsides and what are the downsides of working with family?
Go for it.
I mean, it's a brawl. I mean, I think the upside to it is that we can be incredibly...
A brawl or a ball?
Not a brawl. No, I mean, sometimes it can be a ball, but mostly it's about, it's fighting it out. It's, hey, what are we ultimately trying to achieve? And it's just extreme bluntness, extreme vision, and knowing that, we're in it till the end, and having that reliability, and someone coming from a similar background, accounting, law. I mean, it's just been a great compliment to each other working together.
One of the biggest lessons of just leadership in general is you have to have radical transparency with each other. You cannot just let things slip through the cracks and hide weaknesses. You're just doing a disservice to everyone around you. And so just having the family relationship, that radical transparency has come naturally our whole lives, ever since we've bickered and fought all growing up. The delicacy then, though, is making sure that that never interferes with, the family aspect and taking it personal. But that's a delicacy that exists with all leaders in the org. And so if people can just be transparent with each other and say, no, this is out of your best interest, everywhere on our leadership team. We love each other, but we're going to share and have those tough conversations so we can all get better. And I think that just comes a little bit more naturally at the onset with the family relationship.
And if your mom and dad have to get involved, then you know it's bad.
We keep them out for sure.
And hopefully mom's on the cap table for those dinners, right?
They're doing just fine.
That's good. All right, so for those that might think they've missed the boat on crypto, what advice would you have for them? And then let's say you're at a family reunion, a barbecue, and somebody says, hey, what do you guys do? What's the quickest way you can either get out of that conversation or explain it intelligently?
Michelle started in 2015, so talk about seeing all the evolution here.
Sure. So I've been getting this question a lot more recently from people, all the way back to high school. Oh, hey, I remember you work in crypto. Can you tell me about X, Y, Z, whatever? And the trend that I see and what I've told people for years is don't spend more than you have. It should never be in any investment, and this isn't investment advice, anything you invest in should be what you're able to lose. I look at crypto and I dollar cost average. So just like I look at my 401k or other investments or savings, I have allocations that go across multiple assets, not just Bitcoin. And the reason there is it's a little bit more conservative, but long play, it has performed a lot better through the ebbs and flows of market. I've seen, the bulls of early 2017 and then 2017 crash at the end of the year. And trying to time the market is incredibly challenging, especially if you're new to the space. There's just so much to learn and follow that I always say approach it with a little bit of conservative hope and understanding and education while you're trying to get into it. Don't try and time the market because you're going to feel that you missed the opportunity, or if it dips, which it always does, then you feel like you lost out and you're disappointed. So it's always education and just a little bit more conservative at the onset.
I think there's always that tendency to feel like you might be a little late to the game, but I think when I was first with my first client, Bitcoin was $200 to $300, and I remember I ultimately didn't buy in until it was about $3,000 at Bitcoin, and I felt like, oh man, I'm buying such a high price and missed the boat here. But you know what? It's still just the complete early innings in this industry. It's about 10% of Americans own cryptocurrency at this point, and the global population, it's much less. Adoption is definitely coming, and there's a lot of room to grow. And even at $60,000 of Bitcoin, I still find myself buying more.
Not investment advice, but I like to look at this as you can put money into it as well, but more important to me, and I think to society, is our time. And to me, this is an opportunity where we're at the very early innings of what I strongly believe will become a tokenized economy. 20 years from now, we're going to look back and say, wow, you remember that moment where institutional adoption went rampant and we were at the forefront of disrupting our financial sector in a way that never has before in our lifetimes. And so why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Why wouldn't you want to absorb and learn everything you can and ultimately potentially work for a company that's on the forefront of leading out in that? It's exhilarating. We wake up each morning and everyone at TaxBit loves the challenges and the news that's coming out and just the constant problems that we need to go and overcome. And so that to me is another way to get involved, is think about this from a time perspective, not just throwing money at a speculative asset, but how can we go and carve out a path for mainstream adoption of an incredible technology.
I would add to that the to your point of looking back, I think we will look back and see that we were part of a transformational company. This has the potential to enable an industry that would otherwise get squashed by regulation. There was a lot of talk of banning crypto assets in 16, 17, and even early 18 because there was no way to regulate it. because there was no way to tax it, because there was no way to, do a lot of things that you do in normal capital assets. And now what we're seeing, to Austin's point, we're seeing the tokenization of the economy. And what happens from here is you will look back and say, oh my gosh, like look at this antiquated method of doing, of accounting for your stocks. We're talking about immutable ledgers that are publicly available to be seen and inspected, and that are not subject to hacks and other things. So from an industry perspective, we are living in a transformational time, and that's exciting. That's why it's so exciting to join TaxBit right now, because we are the tip of that spear of the transformation that's happening in the economy right now.
And so my experience anecdotally with folks in crypto is that they lean libertarian quite heavily. And we made it pretty far down the path without saying regulators, but you said it like 4 times. That's where you come in, right?
To me, it's not about policy positions, and I think even cryptocurrency is it's outside of policy priorities. It's a brand new technology. It's not, hey, the Republicans have a platform on this, the Democrats have a platform on this. It's, hey, this is happening, and we're going to be a part of this ride.
All right, so what are your guys' plans for the next year and a half? What's most exciting to y'all?
Let's go. That's the plan. We are hiring across all departments of our org. We are going to market with world-class products to enable an entire asset to exist. There are so many different things. Obviously, behind the walls of what I'm saying, there's detailed strategic plans and initiatives. But yeah, every single department, every area of the business we're investing in right now, and it's all about attracting world-class people to be part of a world-class company.
Got it. Is that a good answer for the rest of the team there?
I think I'm obviously a good answer, and we are hiring extensively. To touch on the hiring before I get to what I was going to say, because we're a new space and a lot of people are, oh, did I miss the boat in a career in crypto? And there's so much opportunity for people just coming into their career early, or people who want to take a career pivot, or they're like, God, that looks so exciting. I want to love where I work every day. There's so much opportunity to really jump in and say, okay, this might not be my traditional background, but because of my background, I'm going to bring a new lens or learning to this slightly Wild West crazy world that we live in and love. But then if you look at what's exciting about TaxBit from a perspective, and why I'm happy to be here beyond having known them forever and just love the company, is empowering consumers and businesses to really look at this asset class that's an alternative store of value to the dollar or outside of the US, and say, okay, I'm going to navigate this, but I'm going to really look at it as my right arm, and what I'm doing in any transaction or move that I'm making. This software now empowers me to make a really strategic decision beyond what would traditionally be kind of a gray area. The market's up, I'm going to sell, and then you get surprised at the end of the year. So talking to people now that they're looking through that lens, it's wonderful to see the community that I've been in for years have those aha moments.
Yeah. Well, this has all been very fun for me. It's fun to interact with entrepreneurs that are at this stage, and the point's been made a few times that there was a lot that went into it, and then suddenly people see it in the headlines. So congratulations, y'all, for all the hard work that you've put in and the success you've achieved. Congratulations for seeing a good investment, pulling the trigger on that. Really appreciate you guys' time, and look forward to your continued success.
We appreciate you having us here. Silicon Slopes is an amazing ecosystem, and congrats on what you've built and what we're continuing to build all collectively together.
Cool, thank you.